Hello, everybody, and happy holidays, and welcome to this episode of Welcome to 10 Forward. I'm joined by my co-host, Jim Fraskin. Today we're going to be talking about 2 episodes of Star Trek, just Star Trek in general, that make us feel all warm and bubbly inside that fit the holiday mood. So, if you want to know which episodes we've chosen, what we think about them, stick around, you'll find out. Jim.
Yes.
You know what's interesting about Star Trek is I could name several episodes that I think kind of fit the holiday spirit, but because of the nature of what Star Trek is, you don't ever really have a Christmas-themed episode. What's an episode that makes us feel all warm and fuzzy inside? Because I think that warm and fuzzy feeling is the ideal of what the holidays are supposed to make us feel. Star Trek, that's something that I've always found to be a staple of Star Trek, is that feeling of optimism, that feeling of, yeah, things can get crazy, things can get dark, but on the whole, we are good people. And that we can triumph over this great level of adversity. And that we can get there, and we will get there. Like, there's no question about it. It's very much we will get there. But that's what always attracted me to Star Trek, and something that I feel is really lacking in New Trek, especially, is that aura. Because I think now it's popular to make everything really dark and really gritty. And some people can say our favorite of the Star Trek shows, Deep Space Nine, very much sort of set the precedence of New Trek in terms of it being darker, grittier, and everything like that. Yep. But I can't completely agree with that, because to me, Deep Space Nine also has that feeling of optimism from beginning to end of that show.
The perfect takeaway to that is I've been rewatching Deep Space Nine for the 8th time. And I just got to the episode where Bashir finds the other fellow DNA-altered Federation citizens, and they put together their calculations and they present it to Cisco saying, we need to surrender. We are going to lose. And Cisco says, I don't care. Oh, no, he says, I don't give a bloody damn about your calculations. I refuse to quit. And that's the Federation in a nutshell. It's going to be dark.
To quit. Yeah.
There's going to be bumps in the road, but the Federation does not quit.
That's why Star Trek is so unique
really human
to me. It's unbelievably, out of all the Star Trek shows, all the sci-fi shows that I've seen, I think Star Trek is the most human out of them all.
I agree.
It is. It's one of those things where I can listen to the Star Trek music from TNG or the original movies, and I smile because it's very triumphant. It's very, this is what we can be, and that's one reason why I think the holidays is a good time to watch Star Trek. You know, especially if you're feeling down. There's 2 things that I will always watch when I'm feeling down and depressed, and because the holidays can be depressing because sometimes you're away from your family and you want to be with them and stuff like that. If I'm really down in the dumps, there's 2 things I'll do. I'll watch an episode of Star Trek, or I'll put on a Godzilla movie. One of those 2 things, and I will pretty much turn my mood from being really crappy to being, I'm going to be all right.
I 100% agree, and this is another time where I think we'll agree. Got to be in the middle. I like watching TNG era when I just want to watch something to relax and be good, put in a good mood. And there was a lot of episodes that I could have chosen from. There's an episode in Voyager and it's just the one line that keeps sticking in my head that just makes me feel good, when Janeway goes, "There's coffee in that nebula."
Oh, it's great.
That's
fantastic
great.
part.
I love it.
And Deep Space Nine too has several episodes. I love the one where Odo gets his shape-shifting powers back.
Oh yeah, when he sacrifices himself.
It's very Christmassy kind of themed episode in terms of
the first thing he does is he turns into a hawk.
Into a hawk. And I'm like, that is so beautiful and poetic, and I love it. Or the Inner Light, Picard finally gets his family that he's always kind of inwardly yearned for.
And then he keeps that flute thing
and it's
for
wonderful.
The rest of the show.
And I love that episode where he plays with that woman. She's playing the piano, and then he pulls out that flute. and he lets her genius. This is the only sci-fi show ever, in my opinion, to be like, That's just a backdrop.
Mm-hmm.
It's really about these guys. It's about these characters.
I would not say that I am a fan of baseball. There's a certain captain who loves baseball. And in this particular episode, there's a certain Vulcan who challenges him to a game of baseball. And this is, of course, Season 7, Episode 4 of Deep Space Nine, Take Me Out to the Holosuite.
This is the definition of fan service. This is
100%.
Nothing to do with the main plot. Just the characters having fun and the actors having fun with their characters.
Yes.
And the writers having fun with their characters.
I never once did I think I was going to hate it. As soon as I saw that Vulcan who was like, why are you having fun? Like that, I knew it was going to be a great episode.
See, I didn't think I was going to like it just because of everything around it is so dark and usually pretty plot heavy. That I'm like, oh, come on. But now I understand what it is because it's such a breath of fresh air.
It's the comic
rest of the
relief
show.
To the season.
Absolutely. That's 100% what it is.
So well. I can see if you're watching it for, the plot and you're right in the middle of the Dominion War, and I think the last episode ended on kind of a cliffhanger. But when you've watched the show and you've rewatched the show, it's an episode to look forward to because there's a lot of tension and a lot of stress, but now you get to have a little bit of fun.
And it is. It's a little bit of fun. I love how nobody knows how to play baseball. They're all so terrible at it that when they get a point, they all go running out and they're cheering and they're screaming and they're hugging and the Vulcans are like up by like 20-something points or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's like 17 points.
Yeah. And they're like, what, you still lost? And like, we don't care.
But we had fun.
We had a lot of fun.
It's funny that you mentioned it because one of my favorite lines in all of Star Trek, there's two of them
has a few
from
of
this
them,
episode, and you hit one right on the nail. They don't know how to play. So when I love that, like, I think it's Kira, Rom, and Worf are sitting in Quark's bar, and Kira's like reading from the notepad, like, okay, what do you do if there's a baseman on third base and the batter hits a pop fly into the air? And everybody's just thinking, like, oh, I don't know. And Worf, totally stone cold, goes, find him and kill him.
I love that. Find him and kill him. I love that so much. Worf, as he usually does, has the best lines in this episode. Find him and kill him. Bada. And they're all screaming that. And Worf is just in the background, death to the opposition.
That's my second favorite line. Death to the opposition.
It's so like if you look at this outside and if like this is the first episode you come in on, it's the most cringy thing you will ever watch. But if you've watched it from the beginning to this point, it's so fitting. It's so funny. And it does make you feel good. It's right up there for me. This episode is definitely more fun. Another episode that makes me feel really good about Deep Space Nine that makes me feel warm is actually the one where Nog is going through his PTSD thing because he lost his leg.
Oh, where he's with Vic Fontaine?
Yeah, with Vic Fontaine. And I love what the crew does. The crew just comes right up to Nog and supports him like 100%. Like they give up a lot of, or they stop a lot of what they're doing to go help their friend, and that's something that always makes you feel good. That's something that Star Trek does in droves. I mean, freaking Star Trek, the original series, original movies, they do that a lot. I've heard a lot of people actually complain about this episode as feeling too fan servicey. The Bring Me Out to the Holosuite episode. I just think it's so perfect. It's such a good breath of fresh air in such a dark season. That is a wonderful episode because it's such a lighthearted, fun romp that just makes you laugh, have fun with these characters, have fun with this scenario, and just roll with it. And I think it helps that the actors are clearly so comfortable with their characters by this point. It fits. The only thing that I think would have made this episode better is if Jadzia Dax was there. Because I think Jadzia would have a ball with a scenario like this.
She would eat it up, and she would basically be doing what Lita was doing for Rom.
Yeah.
She would be the one telling Worf, like, "Hey, come on, snap out of it, have some fun. No killing allowed.
No
it's
killing.
not a Klingon sport." Like, I think that would play into it even more.
But
I agree.
Yeah, and it's just such a good episode. It's just so much fun. The definition of fun, like the episode that I wanted
What
to
episode would you like to chat about? What episode makes you feel good, Adam?
I think the most holiday episode, in full disclosure, I actually think is The Inner Light on Star Trek TNG, because I think that it's all about sort of family, learning about this family, having a family, growing old with this family. I think that's very holiday-esque. But if I had to really pick one that makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside, like really warm and fuzzy inside, and just makes me laugh and have a good time, it's without a doubt from Star Trek the Original Series, Trouble with Tribbles. And I will also say, as a 0.5, its companion, Trouble and Tribbleations from Deep Space Nine. Again, I find it so funny that everybody says Star Trek Deep Space Nine is so dark, but yet here we are saying two of our favorite episodes that make us feel funny, that make us laugh and have a good time are from Deep Space Nine. Trouble with Tribbles, I think, is... and you can disagree with me with this, but I think the data is going to support me. I think that is the most famous episode of Star Trek anything.
So I always tell you guys, and I give you credit where credit is due, you were the push that got me into Star Trek to watch TNG. And I did, and I'm eternally grateful. My first experience with Star Trek was actually, my dad took me when I was in high school. We went to like a super silly, like off-Broadway show of like a Star Trek parody, and they ended the show by shooting out literally like hundreds of Tribbles into the audience.
I love it. I love that.
Little stuffed animals, and we took one home.
Because Tribbles are awesome.
Even in just that silly little parody, the big send-off was a Tribble.
Tribbles.
Yeah, I would agree. I think if not the ship, if not Kirk, definitely in the top three. Like when you think Star Trek, you know Enterprise, you know Kirk, you know Spock, you know Tribbles.
It's just, to me, it's a good feel-good episode. There's a nice little bait and switch in this episode that I love, where it's at the beginning it's like a typical, oh my god, dude, it's a priority one message, oh my god, and like they're getting there as fast as they can, and there's like red alert going on, and then they get there. It is like the most. It's the silliest thing, because it's like, oh, you want us just to protect some wheat? Are you kidding me? And I love how pissed off Kirk is from beginning to end of this episode, and it's just so fucking funny. It like, I didn't think I would chuckle as much as I did rewatching it, because I was like, I knew everything that was coming, but I was chuckling along with it. And this is one of those ones where it's like really funny because it's so early on, because it's like they call the Klingons different names throughout the entire thing. Sometimes it's Klingons, other times it's Klingons, and then other times it's Klingons. And you know what's funny? They're said by that same smuggler, the same smuggler in this film, or in this episode, calls them 3 different names in one scene. And I'm like, that is too funny. They had to have done that on purpose. Kirk's growing frustration with the situation is just amazing. Like, he's just so baffled that by the end, I just love it, where he's like, I don't care if it takes every man on this ship. I don't care if it takes every man. Get these things off my ship. And he's talking about all the Tribbles that are just coming up out of nowhere. Scotty being Scotty. I think this is the most Scotty moment in anything, is when the Klingons are insulting Captain Kirk and he's having a drink of scotch.
Oh, yes. I know.
But the second he insults the ship, Scotty has it, and he throws the first punch. That is hysterical. I love that, and very fitting for Scotty's character.
He's like, it's not, the Enterprise isn't a garbage ship. It is a pile of garbage. The garbage.
Yeah, it is the garbage. I suggest you rephrase that, laddie. And it's wonderful. Also, a lot of people forget about this. This is Chekhov's first episode of Star Trek.
I did not know that.
Yeah, this is the first episode he is in, and what a fucking episode. Which, of course, was a big deal, especially in the 60s, because Cold War was
Russian,
in full swing. It's just a fun episode. It's 60s camp, like is bright colors. It looks very much like Batman, the old Batman
Oh my
show.
god! Yeah, it does. It looks
West.
like
It's very colorful, very campy, which is why I think it works great with Troubles and Tribulations, the companion episode to it, because I like watching them back to back. The integration with the Deep Space Nine crew is phenomenal. Just shows you how much technology has progressed. I also like how the episode Trouble and Tribulations does not hold back and says, no, we are going to wear the exact same uniforms that they wore back then. We're going to wear them out of the same material. There's a wonderful line where
Jadzia's got the little real high skirt.
Yes, it's one of my favorite lines ever. She goes, I died laughing listening to it because I forgot it was a thing. Bashir goes, wait, shouldn't Cisco and O'Brien, their colors be reversed? And Cisco's like, oh, don't you know that the colors were reversed back then? Officers wore yellow, ensigns wore red, and then you hear Jadzia in the background go, and women wore less. And it cuts to her wearing a mini skirt, and I'm like, this is great. And it helps because that was the 30th anniversary of Star Trek was that episode. It aired on the 30th anniversary of Star Trek. So they wanted to make something that was very lighthearted, very fun, very silly. What better way than to make it interact with Trouble with Tribbles?
Which is already infamously silly.
Silly. And it's great. The interactions are great. The intercutting with the new crew with the original footage
holds up
remarkably well.
Remarkably
well.
I agree with you. Watching it on, we were talking about this before the stream. Watching it on big 4K TVs, you can see some of the mats and you can see some of the compositing going in there, but it still holds up really well.
There's one in particular where you can notice the matting, and it's with Bashir and O'Brien in the lineup with Scotty and Chekhov, and getting scolded by Kirk, who started the fight. And then it becomes a big thing where O'Brien's like, I can't believe I just lied to Kirk.
Yeah.
You see, I love how the crew, the Deep Space Nine crew, are acting like we would.
Oh,
in reality, if we met these guys. That's part of the joke.
They're idols. Yeah,
absolutely. The whole Worf is there.
Worf has the best line, in my opinion.
We don't talk about it with outsiders.
We don't talk about the time.
And I just love how the camera just kind of pushes in a little bit, and
he's sipping on his prune juice.
Everyone leans in and looks at him, and then you just hear Odo, Worf, and it works really good as a double feature. It really does, because they don't really react with each other until the very end, and I think that's part of what makes it work, is that there's these two completely different stories happening. Yeah. They can't get involved, so they try to be inconspicuous and blend in. But I love at the end that Cisco talks to Kirk, and I think he even shakes his hand or something. The temporal police or whatever it was. And the temporal police were like, you shouldn't have done that, but we'll let it slide this time. Because they would have done the same thing. They would have done the same damn thing. Yeah, and you know it. And I love that, how at the very beginning of the episode, when they show up, Cisco goes, we need to not do anything to stand out. The last thing I want is the temporal people to show up and interview me. That's the last thing I want. And then what's happening in the episode? Yeah. And then I love it. There's one line, too, that makes me laugh because it is so true. The temporal police go, oh, Kirk, Jim Kirk. He has 17 separate violations. He has the biggest file on record. Yeah. And I love that. I love that so much. The fact that everyone is so smitten with the Tribbles. And I love it how from beginning of Trouble with Tribbles to the end, every single scene, there are more Tribbles in it. Oh, yeah, that's the whole point. And that is what's so funny. Because they're the cute little thingies, and they're not going to be any harm, but then they just end up taking over the ship. They just take over everything, to the point that they take over Deep Space Nine, too, at the end. And I'm like, that's really funny. Yeah, because they end with one, Odo,
finds one and like lights it.
Find ones, and now they're all over Quark's bar. You know,
Well,
really
I guess
funny.
It really is the trouble with Tribbles.
Yeah. Well, Jim.
Now I want to go watch Trouble with Tribbles.
Well, you should. You should have watched it for this episode.
I thought it was Tribbles and Tribbles and
Trouble and Tribulation.
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
I watched that one. I didn't watch Trouble with Tribbles.
Well, they were both kind of the same, so you're fine. That's going to wrap it up for this. I want to thank you again. Happy holidays to you. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
I'm certainly looking forward to doing more episodes of Welcome to 10 Forward. I love doing this show.
Time flies when you're having fun.
If you want to pimp yourself out, now's the time to do so.
I will, sure. So my name is Jim, and I want to say first and foremost, I hope everyone that is watching has a happy holidays. Whatever you celebrate, doesn't matter. Just spend time with your family. And thank you for spending time with us in 10 Forward. You can find me on YouTube. I stream on Thursdays. I play video games, and my handle is ScrappyDoo, SCRAPYD0O. I play mostly racing games and action-adventure games, and I just have chill sessions. I want to say thank you, Adam, for hosting Welcome to 10 Forward on your channel, and I hope that you have a very Merry Christmas.
Oh, thank you. And a Merry Christmas to you. A Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy holidays. And happy holidays from the bottom of my heart. Looking forward to doing more Welcome to 10 Forward episodes. Stay tuned for more. All of my social media is in the description below. And we'll see you next time. Take care.